What's up, guys? Here are my predictions for a UFC fight night happening in Australia this Saturday. Now, this actually looks like a pretty solid card, and there's a UFC card the day prior. Now, I already made my prediction video for that one, so I highly recommend you guys checking that out if you haven't done so yet. But on this card, as you would expect, a lot of Australian fighters, but the last three fights are interesting because you got the two young fighters from Australia, Tuivasa and Pedro, and you have Mark Hunt making his last fight in the UFC, I believe. And it's also interesting what they're doing with those last three fights. With Dos Santos against Tuivasa, Shogun against Pedro, and Hunt against Willis. Seems like they're trying to have the younger guys, especially in the heavier divisions where they need prospects, build a name off the older guys. But if you're an Australian fan, Willis trying to build his name off of beating Mark Hunt makes it a lot more interesting, right? But we're going to start with Wilson Reis versus Ben Nguyen. Very interesting fight, a fight I'm very much looking forward to. You got two great grapplers, but very different on the spectrum. Wilson Reis is composed, controlling, comfortable on the ground, and extremely experienced. He's fought many formidable opponents in BJJ. Ben Nguyen is chaotic, throws caution to the wind, risks everything he does, which makes him a very fun fighter to watch, but against a guy who is that controlling to control the chaos of Ben, it could be Ben's demise in this one. And you would have to think on the ground, Reis is a much better BJJ artist. He should win the fight on the ground almost every single time. But on the feet, I think Ben has a massive advantage. Reis has no snap in his punches and kicks, really. Everything is really forced and labored, which doesn't give him any speed in his strikes. And his footwork, he's very plodding. He's very obvious for a guy like Ben, where he can risk on the feet a little bit more, where he can explode with the straight right hand over the top. His high kicks are very fast and lunging. He could just put it all on Reis on the feet, but the biggest risk is he can get taken down. And that's going to be the deciding factor in this fight for me. So my prediction for this fight, I'm going to go with Wilson Reis. I'm going to go by a second round submission, but this is only due to banking on Wilson Reis trying to go for the takedowns, possibly submit him or control him to a decision. I believe Wilson Reis can do many things on top of Ben if he chooses to get it to the ground. Then we go to Yushin Okami versus Shevchenko. Grappler versus striker matchup. On paper, that is, because Yushin Okami has great wrestling, MMA wrestling, and great judo skills, where Shevchenko has an extensive background in kickboxing. But people don't know about Shevchenko. He's very much unknown in the North American MMA scene. Being undefeated, a lot of guys in Russia have great wrestling that he has fought, and he himself has shown great wrestling offensively and defensively. That automatically puts him at an advantage over Okami. Okami really only looks for takedowns, especially later in his career, in his last two fights, just looking for the opportunity to take the opponent down and control them. Doesn't really do anything too risky on top, but will land ground and pound shots, and he is massive for the welterweight division, which allows him to control fighters a lot easier. Southpaw fighter as well, good footwork, and he will look for leg kicks to counter them. If there's a leg kick that comes at him, so if Shevchenko throws those, he is going to have to defend the takedown right there and then. Okami's going to look for it every single time. But other than that, he doesn't really do too much else that will threaten Shevchenko. Shevchenko has every strike in the book. He has devastating power. Very, very fast. Much faster than Okami in everything he does. Great wrestling defense. His straight right hand is a dynamite of a punch. Left hook is devastating. His jabs are there. His uppercuts are there. Knees in the clinch. Head kicks. Question mark kicks. Leg kicks. He has it all. And if Okami is looking for the leg kick to counter, Shevchenko can fake it to get Okami to extend forward and then land a counter shot. So he can maybe even throw a question mark kick, which fakes the leg kick and goes over the top when Okami comes in. I mean, there's a lot that Shevchenko can do. And being the southpaw fighter for Okami, Shevchenko has the outside foot if he wants to take it. Gets him off the center line of the takedown as well. Land the straight right hand, land a body kick, land a head kick. My prediction for this fight, I'm going to go with Shevchenko. I think he has so many weapons, defensively, offensively, to thwart the more one-dimensional style of Okami. So I'm going to go with Shevchenko. I'm going to go by a first or second round TKO. Then we go to Mark Hunt versus Justin Willis, a fight a lot of people are looking forward to. If I'm not mistaken, it's the last fight of Mark Hunt's career in the UFC. And what a way to go, right? In Australia, behind two of his friends, two of the young up-and-coming contenders, prospects from Australia. Probably a very proud moment for Mark Hunt. And it's an interesting stylistic matchup. I mean, Mark Hunt is one of the most experienced guys in the heavyweight division, inside and outside the UFC. He has a background in kickboxing, who has fought many formidable opponents, and he's always been such a short fighter against these guys, but he's finally fighting someone who is about the same height since he fought Roy Nelson years ago. And he's going to really appreciate that. His uppercut is finally coming to play again. Last time we saw it was against Roy Nelson. And that's only because Roy Nelson was that much of a shorter fighter compared to the rest of the guys he fights. I mean, he's fighting 6'4" guys on a regular. so he doesn't really have that uppercut as a weapon too much. He has to rely on the overhand right, the jab, straight right hand, and a left hook over the top. And when he has to throw punches over the top against these taller fighters, they can come under those because there's so much exposed for the takedown. Now, everything is a lot more on the center for Mark Hunt. He has a lot more weapons he can use. He has powerful leg kicks. I wish he went to them a little bit more than he does. And his jab is excellent. He's very fast with his hands. A lot of people underrate his speed. He's very fast for a heavyweight. His jab is excellent. He has an amazing ability to measure punches off that jab, especially the uppercut. He did it to Roy Nelson. He's done it to so many people to land that right hand. And if the right hand doesn't land clean, left hook is right there. And again, they come out very quickly. And his punching power is top 5 of heavyweight history? I mean, legitimate one-punch knockout power to the point where he's so confident in it, he will walk away when he hits you with a clean shot because he knows it's over. And he's so good at measuring distance. I mean, he's so good at measuring distance on longer fighters. Now imagine a guy who's shorter. I mean, he's always on the outside of punches, doesn't really overreact to them. And Justin Willis, his striking is very reminiscent to Daniel Cormier's. Doesn't really cut off opponents. He does have knockout power, but he really relies on the speed of his punches and the speed of his ability to come in on opponents. He's going to have, I think, a reach advantage over Mark Hunt, even though it looks about the same. They say he's 6'1" with a 78-inch reach, but when they stood up against each other, they look about the same height with the same reach. But who knows? He really lunges out with his punches. Left hook will be out there, right hook will be out there. And he hasn't been going for takedowns too lately, but I believe he does have a pretty good takedown game. And he likes to walk down opponents, but he will not walk down Mark Hunt like that, unless Hunt is anticipating the takedown. But my prediction for this fight, I'm going to have to go with Mark Hunt, because Mark Hunt's takedown defense has progressed greatly, and he doesn't have to reach out for his punches for guys to counter him with takedowns anymore. And Justin Willis will throw out wildly. He will not catch Mark Hunt with those kind of punches. And Mark Hunt throws things down the pipe. That uppercut will be there. The left hook on the inside will be there. But the straight right hand, I think, is a big weapon against Justin Willis, being a southpaw fighter. So I'm going to go with Mark Hunt. I'm going to go by a first round knockout. Then we go to the co-main event, Shogun Rua versus Tyson Pedro. Let me be honest, I think it's a bit of a mismatch. I know Tyson Pedro makes some mistakes that will cost him the entire fight. And Shogun Rua, being this old in the game, he still has that power. He still has that ferocity, like you saw in his Jean Vellante fight. But let's be honest here. Shogun is a striker, doesn't really go for takedowns. Very obvious style nowadays. He hasn't adapted. He didn't evolve with the game too much. He has that overhand right. He has the left hook. He has the leg kicks. He has the body kicks. The round kicks, that is. Nothing really else to threaten Tyson Pedro. Pedro's the much bigger fighter, much longer than him. He has the power to drop Shogun. Shogun's chin is withered away completely. And Pedro can take it to the ground if he wants. And on the ground, he should submit Shogun as well. I just think Pedro's too big, too long, too fast, too young. His chin is too good. He really won't be in the range of the punches. And his question mark kick is there. His head kicks are there. Shogun is just way too slow at the end of the day. So I'm going to go with Tyson Pedro. I'm going to go by a first round TKO. Then we go to the main event, and actually a very hard fight to call in my opinion. Junior dos Santos versus Tai Tuivasa. Two strikers, but you would have to think JDS might go for takedowns. He does have some of a takedown game. He has taken down opponents. He took down Stipe Miocic. And Tuivasa's takedown defense, it's 100%, but it hasn't been tested too much against guys who can have effective takedowns. So it's going to be interesting. JDS is a boxer. For the most part, he has good kicks, spinning heel kicks, body kicks, teeps. He can throw leg kicks if they're there, but I don't think he's going to throw any leg kicks against Tuivasa. Tuivasa will counter him. He has a blitzing style. He's very fast to cover distance. So I see a boxing and possibly a takedown game from Junior dos Santos. He's going to be a longer fighter in there, taller fighter in there. His jab is very fast. His straight right hand is powerful. His left hook is powerful. His uppercut's powerful. But I see a lot of jabs and left hooks from JDS. But the thing about JDS, though, is his chin is not the same. He's never been the same fighter after those Cain Velasquez fights. And he does not deal well with pressure when he's up against the cage. I mean, people are able to land shots on him. He gets very open. He'll throw left hooks too much to the point where it's just to be expected. And people come down the center. And Tuivasa's punches all come down the center. And you have to think that elbow of Tuivasa can also land. And Tuivasa has excellent leg kicks. You can say he might be just as powerful, or if not close, to JDS. But he's going to have this speed of covering distance that JDS hasn't fought in a long time since Cain Velasquez. He waits for you to throw a punch and he'll blitz right down. And he will march down at you, charge down at you while defending your shots until you back up to the point where he's comfortable to throw a shot over the top at you. Or if something gets deflected, he will counter you right behind it. And because of that charge to get in on JDS is going to have to really pick his shots. Now he's good at it. He has precise shots. But moving backwards, is he just going to move away? Or is he going to try to intercept, throw a jab or something like that? If he throws the wrong punch and Tuivasa deflects it, Tuivasa will counter him behind it. And he has excellent elbows in the clinch. He will have to try to get this fight in close, up against the cage. That's the best way he's going to win this fight. At a distance, I think JDS will beat Tuivasa. In close, I think Tuivasa will beat JDS. It just depends how is Tuivasa going to cover the distance to get in on such a quick fighter like JDS. And again, do not be surprised if JDS shoots under for takedowns when Tuivasa rushes in. So my prediction for the fight, it's a tough fight to call. I can be wrong with this one, but I'm going to go with Junior dos Santos. I think he has the wrestling threat, and you look back at the Andrei Arlovski fight with Tai Tuivasa, he had a hard time landing those punches, especially when Arlovski was moving away, and even when he covered up on them. He kind of got stuck rushing a little bit too much. And he doesn't cut off opponents. He doesn't follow to the cage a whole lot, especially when people are circling around him. And JDS has pretty fast footwork, and he's very good at getting away, especially late in his career. I just see JDS throwing shots from a distance and exiting away from anything Tuivasa is going to land. And JDS has better cardio as well. So I'm going to go JDS, and I'm going to go by a 4th round TKO. So let's go to the betting odds. Ben Nguyen is actually the favorite over Wilson Hayes. If Wilson Hayes takes it to the ground, I believe he wins the fight. So that's interesting. He's not a big underdog though. Paul Craig is an underdog, 2-1 underdog. That's interesting. Mark Hunt is also very slight underdog. And Tuivasa is an underdog. I thought he would be the favorite. So those are pretty interesting. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. And if you did, make sure to give it a thumbs up. If you enjoyed my content, make sure to subscribe. For my next video, I'm going to put up my prediction video for Deontay Wilder versus Tyson Fury in a couple hours or so. So be looking for that. And again, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.